Hello and welcome back to Let's Play and Learn SimCity 4 with me, xpoohx. So, I uploaded all the videos. I watched them all while I was at work today. Yeah, that's what I do at work. I watch my own Let's Play videos. There are some pretty typical xpoohx style gaffes in there, where I start talking about something and then I just decide, to to start talking about something else. So I'm working on it. But today, now that we have Sunnyvale 1, 2, and 3 down, we have our nice regional population of about 60,000 Sims. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start on Dartmouth. I got some really good feedback on this set that I uploaded. I'm super happy with the response so far, and I'm going to continue along those lines. One of the things that I'm going to do in this video is we're going to start on showing you what a smaller metropolitan center is going to look like. That is a metropolitan center that still isn't dabbling in high density yet. When I start working on high density, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for at least one city that has a lot of education and the ability to educate a lot of Sims. It's better if you have more than one, like if you have like 2 or 3 different Dartmouths, so you go from having your 3 Sunnydales and your Dirty Burger and Dope Trailer, your 1 Dartmouth, to having like 9 of your farming villages, maybe a full map of dirty industrial and manufacturing industrial, and then 2 or 3 of the next city that I'm going to build to sort of pump out those high wealth educated Sims, to increase the demand for them for where they're going to live. So we'll start off in a map just like we did in our last video. This one has, as you can see, the city opinion polls have already started taking effect, even though nobody lives here. So we'll go down to our budget. The first thing I'm going to do before I do anything is I'm going to come down to industrial, and I am going to put these 3 up to 20% and keep high-tech industry right where it is. Going to leave all of these other ones how they are. The only industry I want clean industry in this area. It was nice of us to start off with 5 sim bucks less than full package, but that's probably from these guys right here. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna outline our highway. I turned on more car models for this video so that, wow, that was really expensive. It was like 150,000 grand to do that. Dang. No wonder my other cities have such small in levels. Highways are expensive. I turned on the car models so you can it'll render more car models from my typical play view. And I did that because I wanted to give you guys a sense of how much traffic each city is actually producing, because beforehand we really weren't getting to see the numbers so much. So we've learned our lesson. I actually went back to the Dirty Burger and fixed the one off ramp that I kind of flummoxed up down there. So we're going to lay out what should be a fairly familiar pattern. Something you've seen me do at least 3 times now. And I use this pattern in... I had another build that I used to use. I use this pattern in almost all my cities. Anything over farming villages, pretty much. If I'm building some experimental city, for example, if I'm building like a suburb where I just want there to be like low density residential, which frickin' failed miserably on me, I'll do something different. But this one, we're going to sort of combine the 2 prototypes that we've already learned into one. And I didn't do this in the industrial cities, mainly because I expected there to be less traffic, which is actually not correct. There's just as much traffic there. So what we've got here is we've got our highway, which to the northeast of us is our manufacturing capital, and to the northwest of us is our dirty center. And these two are gonna provide freight to come in and help us out with our demand. So we can look at our demand, our RCI demand, really fast. And what we notice right away is we've still got this like 6,000 agricultural jobs that we have to get rid of, and these are never going to go away. I've built a whole region of just agricultural cities, and if you have Sims living in your cities, there are going to be Sims who want to work in farms, and I think this is probably due to the SimCity algorithm being sort of brute forced into always having an agricultural demand. So there's always a way to give Sims jobs. It's sort of like a goofy provision. The thing that's different now is we have about 4,000 demand, which I would assume means corresponds to 4,000 Sims for medium wealth residential, which is like, apartment buildings, condominiums, those type of things. We got, like maybe 10 high wealth Sims. This bar right here is going to be where your skyscrapers come from. There are buildings in this game that will carry 5,000 Sims in one, 4x4 plot. And then we have low wealth commercial. The reason these commercials haven't grown yet, and the reason we have no high-tech industry in the city yet, is because there's not very many educated Sims in our region. And education is essentially how you get those things. This is going to be the city where we educate. We're going to have a university, probably a city college. We're going to have high schools, which is a novel concept because we haven't seen high schools yet. Essentially, high schools are just like poorly attended elementaries. At least in SimCity. I mean, I guess you could make some education allegory about how high schools are poorly attended, but I won't. If I drop a lot of inane RoboCop references, you'll have to forgive me. I watched RoboCop last night. It's a freaking wicked movie. I wish I could be RoboCop. I do want to be a police officer. And being a robot would just make it so much better. So I've got a couple of new subscribers joining me, which I'm really happy to see. It's sort of a gratuitous thank you very much for subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate any comments. Any and all comments I get, and I would encourage you to continue to comment on my videos. Especially if you have questions. You can also send me a PM if you don't want to comment. A personal message. I absolutely will respond to you if you send me a personal message as well. A big part of me doing these YouTube Let's Plays is that I wanted to experience the sort of the YouTube social interaction that goes on. And this may look a little weird, but I'll fill this in with something later. It just means I didn't center it quite right, which, I mean, happens. I'm not going to sit here and miser over centering this perfectly. It looks like we're building a lot of road infrastructure, and we are. But you'll see, like, we're gonna get some pretty fast residential commercial growth in this city. I plan on filling up this, hopefully, if I did my homework right, I plan on filling up this whole quarter of the city with one click of cheetah. Normally I wouldn't advise you to make so many connections to your main avenues, but because we have this highway network set up, traffic isn't going to be too big of a problem. And there's a point at which in SimCity 4 you just have to accept that there's going to be traffic and that there's nothing you can do about it. And some of you might notice that I'm not actually building any mass transit. One of the reasons I'm not doing that is because the mass transit that comes with SimCity is really, really crappy. And I actually haven't been able to successfully use anything other than bus stops. And the bus stops in this game, they only cost you 5 simoleons, and they usually make you quite a bit of profit. And I mean, maybe we'll put some down so I can show you what happens. But if you have like a whole bunch of people living really close to each other, and you put a bus stop down, there'll be like one bus stop with like 5,000 sims, and the stock ones that they give you, these guys, they can only handle 1,000. If you place one right beside there, you'll have like one with 9,000 and one with 2. Like the game just does, and I'm sure somebody else has talked about that, but the game just does a really bad job of managing mass transit, and it's definitely, like, if I had to say I had a problem with SimCity, that's one of them. So I'm going to put down a water pump here, and you'll notice that I don't have power set up yet. One of the things we're going to do is we're actually going to reroute power through a neighboring deal, and I think I'm going to set that up before I do any zoning. Yeah. So we'll save and exit now that we've got that nice little spiral pattern for Dartmouth set out. And I don't know if we're going to use Dope Trailer or if we're going to use... I think I would rather have manufacturing jobs be successful than dirty jobs. And so I'm going to put a lot more... I'm going to put the more polluting effects over in the dirty burger. One of the things that this is actually going to unlock for us is we're going to actually unlock... Yeah, we're almost capped out, hey? So, one of the things you'll notice is I did fix this little glitch that I had earlier that I noticed. I didn't really... you know what? We're going to go like this. So we're going to go and we're going to put down 2 coal power plants. 1. 1 or 2, right? Trying to think how much power we're going to need. Do I think we're going to need more than 6,000 megawatt hours? No, I don't think we will, not to start off. And so I'm going to build power lines, as you'll notice. I didn't really cover why there are no power lines. I mean, maybe I should. Power in SimCity 4 travels through the streets. So something you'll notice that I've sort of been doing without explaining it is, like, an old school SimCity. In SimCity 1, you'd have to like put a power line there and put a power line there and there and there, and then these guys will get power. But the nice thing about this part of SimCity is power actually travels through the streets themselves. It's sort of like a built-in piece of infrastructure, and you can sort of see that if I zoom in. You can see like they got the, you know, you got the lights here and stuff like that. That looks really terrible. But anyway, so you built some power lines, and it's the same thing as connecting roads or water. You hit accept. I'm actually at the luxury where I'm actually at a point where the way I build, this city of Dartmouth will be able to have its water pumps right here, and it won't be polluted enough because of what I'm going to put in this corner that they'll never get shut off. Well, at least I hope they won't get shut off, because if they get shut off, it's a monumental pain in the ass. So we're getting a couple of updates. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay down some... We're going to put down a school. This should look pretty straightforward. And this school is just going to be woefully unequipped. Unequipped to deal with the amount of education that we're going to need. We're going to put down a big medical center, which should be familiar from... that should be pretty familiar from my last playthrough. And actually, I want to manage it so that not too much spills over, because these large medical centers, believe it or not, we'll just call it Hospital 1, actually get overcrowded super fast in metropolitan cities. We're going to put down a high school. Blam. And making a profit, even though we're spending like tons of money and we have no development, is actually going to be a lot easier than you think in this city. And I think I want to go City Museum and Library. You get a lot of bang for your buck out of the City Museum and the Library. Like, you can see the library costs us 62, and we can give out like 9,000 books. Same thing with the City Museum. You get a little bit of education bonus out of these guys. And if you build enough of them, you can get some pretty neat gifts. Like, you get the Major Art Museum, you get the